Hey everyone, and welcome to Comedians on Technology, People and Drugs. I'm your host, as always, Sam Joseph, and today we're very lucky to have comedian Phillip Reiss on the podcast. Hey Philip, it's really great to have you with us. Thanks so much for sharing your time.
No problem. Thank you very much for having me. Good to be here.
Brilliant. Yes, now you're a funny person. Let's get into our first question, which is, of course, what is your comedy origin story? Were you bitten by a radioactive comedy zombie? Has that, is seeping through your veins? Where did it all start?
No supervillain stories on this one. Let's try not to make this sound like an X Factor sob story. But I originally lost a friend to cancer
Sorry to hear
uh,
that.
just pre-COVID. Um,
Mm,
and at the time, my brother signed up for an ultra boxing, white collar boxing event.
mm.
And in sponsoring him, I made a decision not to go and get punched in the face.
Right,
But I did see that they did comedy as
right.
as a charity event. So it piqued my interest because I've always loved stand
Mm,
up, like for years. I've always enjoyed it, gone to see people live, like for years and years. It's always been
mm,
a passion. So
mm.
yeah, I signed up pre-COVID. So it was supposed to be an 8-week workshop
Mm,
run by a famous comedian and
hmm.
then a 300 person kind of headline event at the end of the
Wow.
8 weeks for those that had stayed through the workshop. So
Wow.
we had to raise a certain amount for charity, sell a certain number of tickets for the event, and attend at least four of the workshop classes.
Mm,
I think I was two classes in before COVID,
right.
and then it was all kind of put on pause.
Oh no.
So then, just over a couple of years ago now, so 20, I'm going to say 2022, end of 2022,
Mm,
it kicked back up again. So the workshops happened. So we did 8 weeks
hmm.
in a little pub in North London with it started off about 50 people, ended
Hmm.
up being about 20.
Right.
So my very first gig was in front of 300 people at the Backyard Club.
Wow. Brilliant. Amazing. And how did that first gig go?
Uh, well, over time, like most of mine normally do, not surprisingly, I think it was meant to be 5 minutes. And I think I dragged myself off the stage after about eight.
Oh wow.
Um, but my very supportive, lovely colleagues at work, apart from just buying tickets and coming along, decided what they needed to do was buy t-shirts with my face on.
Right.
And the only people I could see were the front row. So I could just see 15 or so of my face staring back at me while I'm trying to do comedy for the very first time.
Goodness.
So I'm not sure which part of that was most nerve-wracking, but it definitely, yeah, that's where the super comedy bug bit, I guess. And from that point on, I took a couple of months off to get through Christmas and then thought, you know what, that wasn't the worst thing I've ever done.
Right.
So yeah, signed up for some open mic comedy.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, well, there's lots of things I kind of want to dig into here. Fascinating stuff. So one of the things that we talk about is the challenge of doing that first gig, where like people, it's like jumping out of a plane, stealing yourself. I guess with the whole charity event and the workshop and all this, that, and the other. You're kind of on a conveyor belt, as it were. I mean,
Yeah,
clearly, as you're saying, I mean, some people decided to drop out through that process, but you went the whole distance of selling the tickets and turning up to the event. I mean, it's slightly different comedy course to the ones we've talked about on the podcast so far. 8 weeks, that's sort of normal. This charity aspect and the much larger, normally I think, people at the showcase event at the end of these comedy courses, you got an audience of about 50 or
yeah.
something, and not in a prime comedy club. Can I ask who the comedian was who was teaching the course?
Yes, well, the pre-COVID original was supposed to be Mike Gunn.
Right.
So we had our first couple of sessions with him, and then the follow-up was an Australian comedian called Sarah Bonetto.
Wonderful. Right. And this was all done within the auspices of the Backyard Club, one presumes.
So we did the kind of workshops in kind of upstairs in a pub in North London every
Oh.
Wednesday. So it was like 2 hours, 2 hour kind of workshops, talk through
Mm,
some ideas, just kind of as a large group, rather than all of the, I guess, intricacies of how do you write a joke? How do you build this? How do you do that? There was so
Mm.
many people to start with. It was a bit difficult to go into, I guess, a more standard comedy workshop as you would.
Sure.
So yeah, it kind of week by week, more and more people either couldn't make it or they would drop out. So then it got a bit more fine tuned to individually what we were
Mm,
doing.
mm,
So
mm.
I think there were 22 of us on the showcase, and I don't think before that any one of us had probably run through our full 5 minute set in front of the room. So it'd been
Mm,
highlights of it because there were just so many people and so little time. So, the
mm,
workshops would
mm,
run
mm.
over and we'd spend more time talking, going through ideas and sharing or building. Someone would have an idea, and if someone suggested, what about trying that? You'd give them the ideas. There would be no kind of joke stealing. It was all about really supporting and encouraging
Mm.
each other. And that definitely helped with the audience. I think all being there because they're raising money for charity and um, all kind of supporting the people there. It was a
Yeah.
really, really supportive crowd. I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
300 people there for good reasons, not to no shouting, no heckling, no kind
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
giving grief as you would get. Certainly a bit more experience now. You definitely see that a bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And so what do you think was the thing that kept you going when some of these other 50 people, were dropping out? Why did you carry on through the workshops and to the actual final gig?
Um, One, I guess, because the reason I signed up to do it, so I wasn't signing up and going, you know what, let me just try and see.
Mm,
Maybe I'll do it,
mm.
maybe I wouldn't. Like I'd kind of committed to the fact that I wanted to do it. The COVID pause really kind of wasn't an excuse to not do it. It was, a matter of circumstance for everyone. So don't
Yeah.
let that be a reason to put off. I probably didn't do much in between that time. Where I probably could have been writing or thinking a little bit more about some of that
Mm.
stuff, but it was still so with 2 weeks in, not enough time to put you
Yeah.
off or kind of throw you in the
Right.
deep end either way. But I think, yeah, the fact definitely the reason I'd gone into it, I wanted to make sure I'd saw that through for myself,
Mm.
and kind of to show that support for the family and like my friend. And then also I had a really large donation from work.
Mm.
So actually, or lots of people from work donated. Let me rephrase that.
Mm. Mm.
Um, to the point where I couldn't have backed out at that point if I
Yeah.
wanted to, because they'd all donated so much money.
Absolutely.
Um, so I was kind of forced into being committed to it. And the fact I know that, they were all going to come along, and I've got really supportive friends and family. So
Yes.
I think I probably had about 30 or so people coming to that showcase gig, not just from work. So,
Yes.
a lot of people behind me and then giving you that, I guess, spurring you on to go,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's something you want to do and something you enjoy. And I guess, yeah, my years and years of sarcastic kind of comments and jokes and like
Mm.
things in front of all those people, they obviously saw something that I guess would be worth seeing on stage, maybe,
Mm.
or they just wanted to see me fall and not get a laugh for
Sure.
5 minutes, one or the other. But I'll go with the supportive one. I'll
Yeah,
go with the supportive
absolutely.
answer, of course.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me. You got that framework. And
Yeah.
and so yes, and obviously, awful to lose a friend to cancer. I've lost various people to cancer. It's a real bugger, that cancer. So and then so the charity event was for that particular kind of cancer. It was sort of somehow connected to that as well, was it?
So originally, it was the whole event was for cancer research.
Right, right.
So everybody that was there were raising money for cancer research.
Brilliant.
I think now the ultra comedy events they do are actually you pick your own charity, so it's not
Mm,
specifically for one, but it's yeah. I guess for that day or for that event at that time, it was definitely an issue close to my heart for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's I mean, I guess this is something that the backyard club continue. Well, or I guess that's the name of the ultra comedy events is a thing, and they are I guess there are other people organizing it, and it involves professional comedians and
Yeah.
clubs like the Backyard Club, and it's a thing that they do. Yeah, and then so that 8 minutes that you were up there, I mean, and you're saying intimidating and what have you. Did you during that process you got laughs? You enjoyed it? There was something about being on
Yeah.
the stage that kind of clicked for you?
Yeah, definitely. It was definitely that. Like I said, that's definitely one. I think it did bite, and I was like, actually, it's not as scary as you think it is. And people are like, "Oh
Mm,
my God, I can't believe you stand up and tell jokes." I'm like,
right.
I've had to do a lot worse. Like I've gone through worse. I had to um, stand up at my friend's funeral and do a
Mm,
eulogy, and that was on my birthday. So it was,
Mm,
you know,
mm,
so that's the scariest thing I probably had to do because that was important. Whereas standing up in front of people, as I've definitely learned over the last couple of years, if they don't laugh, they don't
mm,
laugh. It's fine.
mm.
I'm kind of over time adjusting to kind of respond to that and react to that. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. But actually, you just go, you know what? I'm probably never going to see you again. Or,
Mm, mm.
okay, you didn't enjoy it. That's fine. But actually, yeah, standing up, presenting an idea and a thought that is my own and getting a reaction to that, let's say maybe 8 times out of 10 at least,
Mm.
it's quite an addictive feeling. It really is.
Yeah.
It's yeah, it's fun when it works and it's interesting and a learning opportunity when it doesn't.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and well, it's interesting what you're saying there about not as scary as you think, and I think that's true to some extent. Although I notice, I think when I think back to my first 100 gigs, is there was definitely in some of them there were points in which I wasn't getting laughs, and a kind of fight or flight response was flicked in me. Like a kind of,
Mm,
I guess it's a, we can call it bombing or a feeling of dying. But it's interesting, I think, because you can be in a situation where you're not getting any laughs, and it's not, and I think as you get more experienced, and I haven't really had this feeling for a number of years now. But there was 3 or 4 times in that first 100 gigs where I I had like a physiological response in my mouth went dry and there's a kind of like panic wanting to run. I mean, I never turned around into like actually making me want to run away, but
mm.
there was kind of like there was a sort of a palpable fear on my part. Um, but so I mean, I'm sure you've experienced something like that, or maybe
Y-
not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think on about my kind of fifth or sixth gig, um, I'd had obviously the first one, which had gone really well, and like
Right.
everyone's like, "Yeah, that's really fun." Blah blah blah. So and again, it was a really supportive crowd, so you'd expect that
Mm,
even if I'd have tanked, they'd
mm.
have had to have gone well done. So then the next couple went okay and tried, venturing out. And then I think, yeah, gig number 5 or 6, my brother had come over from Ireland, and I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
come and watch me do comedy." And maybe it was
Mm,
having him in there,
mm,
or maybe it was
mm,
because I was a bit too far ahead of thinking I was better than I was.
mm.
I lost it after about a minute and a half and
Yeah,
just went, nope, I've got no idea. And instead of trying to keep going, like
yeah,
I just went, you know what, I'm just going to go and sit down. And
right.
actually, knowing when to walk away, if you're having an absolute nightmare, knowing when to walk away is just as important as
Mm.
dragging it out and making it even more painful for you and the audience. So I think definitely, yeah. And I think I did that a bit later on, a kind of a few more gigs in. I got to about 4 minutes and went, I forgot my last joke. That'll do. And then it's just knowing to call it when you're ready.
Yeah.
As long as you're not supposed to be doing 10 minutes and you call it after 2.5, then
Mm, mm,
no
mm.
one's gonna like think any worse or scream at you and shout at you. So it's just like, okay, it's fine. You're better to go a little bit under than you are a little bit over from a kind of on the day of the event for the MCs and for the rest of the performers. They'd rather get on and get off earlier if you've
I think they would,
cut
yeah.
short, right? So
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's often the case. I mean, I think for me personally, selfishly, I mean, it's such a getting stage time can be, you have to work at doing that. I'm kind of like relentless in my pursuit of trying to use as much of it as possible.
yeah.
But yes, no, that's a great point that you make there. And I'm interested to come back to the you say lifelong stand-up fan. I guess that the stereotypical question is who are your influences? But what was that? You were watching stand-up on the television, going out and seeing stand-up at the live comedy shows.
Um I think it started probably when I was about 10, 11.
Mm,
Like in terms of knowing what stand-up comedy was about.
mm,
Definitely kind of first influences probably the people like my dad watched and my brothers and stuff like that. So Billy Connolly was on like
mm,
a lot, big fan of him. Of course, who couldn't be, I think.
mm,
Um, the first stand-up I watched and could probably almost quote word for word up until a couple of years ago before you give me the test, Sam,
mm,
was Delirious by Eddie Murphy.
mm,
That was the first one where I really went, actually, stand-up is like something I can enjoy and watch and get into. So seeing different people, film stars trying it, or like, they start as comedians or the other way
mm,
around, like just seeing how people do it and how differently, I guess, different jokes land and how people, I guess back then, there was a lot of things that people would say, and whether they're right or wrong, I guess, is a different discussion. But there's
Mm.
things that were said back then you definitely couldn't say now
Mm.
for fear of, people saying that's wrong or you're going to get cancelled, blah, 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 all of that crazy stuff that kind of happens. But
Mm.
it was, you could still appreciate a good joke. And I think I still do
Mm.
now. People say things that I think that's a bit close to the bone or that's a bit, you can't say that. But actually, people can. You have to, like, as long as you're not being racist, sexist, hurtful deliberately to someone, like, yeah, if you can understand the premise of the joke or what they're trying to say behind it,
Mm.
you don't have to be on board and agree with their opinion, but you can still go, okay, I can see what you're trying to say.
Mm.
I guess, yeah, back when I was 14, what are we talking, like 1990, the 90s, early 90s,
Mm.
like there was a lot of things going on TV you definitely couldn't be saying or even thinking about showing on TV now.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I definitely appreciated lots of different comedians, lots of different styles, very much kind of Rick Mail, not really the young ones. That's probably a bit before my
Mm.
time, but
Mm.
watching Bottom on a Sunday night before trying to run away to bed and stuff like that, and like just
Mm.
enjoying some of the sillier comedy rather than the serious
Sure.
kind of things. So just a real mixture. I don't like things that are a little bit kind of too silly and too out
Mm.
there and too surreal, but I can still appreciate them. And I think I've always had a definite love for, you know, I guess just humor. I've always been trying to make people laugh or enjoy
Mm.
laughing or just have fun in situations. Or again, sometimes that's my downfall. People can't always tell if I'm being serious or not,
Uh,
because that tone of mine seems to sit in a naturally sarcastic space. But yeah, I always like to try and find the fun and the humor because life is too short. Like you just got to enjoy it.
well, indeed. Absolutely. Yes. And it's interesting what you're saying there about the what you can and can't say. I mean, I think that the as one starts to say, use a more sensitive topic,
Hmm.
then it has to the humor has to be of a higher quality, I would
Yeah.
say. I mean, that's uh, and I think that I mean, there's always there's a danger in anything that you say can be taken the wrong way, and it's like how much responsibility does each person have to ensure that in all the different ways that what they say could be taken, that you're like covering yourself. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
arguably is the burden higher on higher profile people who say things and then that's heard by more people. I mean, there's if you're in the public eye and you say something, yeah, it's. I mean, I'm sort of am I tiptoeing around it? I'm trying to sort of say I wonder how much burden there is on people not it seems like people are in some ways very easily offended, and then that kind of almost taking offense becomes a hobby for
Yeah.
some people.
Definitely.
Not that we shouldn't be responsible for our actions. We certainly should. But yes, I think part of the process of creating good comedy means that you have to experiment with ideas, and sometimes you're going to try out that joke with that slightly more sensitive material, and it's someone is going to find themselves offended, and that's why you do that in an open mic, possibly just with other comedians, not with any paying customers. You're doing it in certain
Yeah.
contexts, and yeah, I think there's like you need the awareness, don't you, of like, okay, I mean, it's like you've got different. Let's say in golf, not that I know anything about golf, but you're using the appropriate tool for the job, isn't
Yeah.
it?
It's difficult because some people will take offense on behalf of someone else because they feel they should,
Right.
rather than it offending, which is your first problem.
Mm.
And the second, I guess, is some people will write or, I guess, act to cause deliberately to cause offense.
Mm.
It's one thing to say something and it to be misconstrued or someone to misunderstand or be upset by it.
Mm.
But if that wasn't your intention, that's different. If you're deliberately going out to go, I'm going to offend as many people in this room as I can, or I'm
Mm.
going to insult and upset as many people as I can, I don't understand the the enjoyment factor for people. Like, I don't understand how you could go, all right, my job right now is to go and insult 25 people that paid money to come and see me.
Mm.
and it's like the high profile comedians, obviously people are paying good money and they know what they're getting because they've built that audience. People are almost expecting it. So there is a burden, I think, on whatever profile you've got as a comedian to
Yeah.
be sensible about that. But yeah, some people, you go and see Jimmy Carr, Ricky Gervais, you know they're going to provoke, or Frankie Boyle, some of these people, they're
Yes.
going to
Yeah. Yeah.
provoke a reaction, but the audience know that. And that's
Yeah.
different to going into a room completely blindsiding the whole audience and
Mm,
just insulting like anyone either personally or a whole
hmm.
race of people or a whole like I don't see the enjoyment factor for me it doesn't work. Like I just
Yeah.
it confuses me.
Well, there's definitely different sorts of people. I mean, and I think there are. It's interesting. Some people do seem to take a kind of perverse delight in the discomfort of others,
Yes.
which, for me, although like I cause discomfort in others, usually through my like failure to read the room is the, this is like I think I never intend. I want everybody to be happy and having
Yeah.
a good time, and I also want to explore interesting and difficult ideas. I think there's Wes Defoe who runs various sorts of nights in London is very interesting. Like he actually, and he's a young black man's very funny. He interestingly he sort of rails against the punching. Like there's this no punching down mentality
Mm.
that's across there. He says that actually, you know, we're all equal, so there is no punching down. And I think he argues. I'm just like presenting his. Then I'm just getting him on the podcast. We had him on the podcast a few years ago. He argues that if we're all equal, then every joke is game, and there is sort of a, I think it's, I don't know, this comes up on other podcasts that, for example, you might have people with disabilities in an audience, and there are some comedians who will make fun of them. I guess not maliciously, but in a kind of, we can make a joke about that because it's slightly taboo. I'm going to slightly cross a line, and I think for some very skilled comedians that actually works. And I think the people who are different in whatever way from like the norm, then actually feel included because they're not being specially treated in some way.
Yeah.
I mean, this is maybe like second or third hand or what have you. But yeah, annoyingly, it's so difficult to actually work out, to prove intent. I guess that's the whole one of
Yeah.
the problems of the human condition. But yes, it's like if you are, yeah, it comes on this question about art. I mean, there are other things. There's like the theater of hate. Is this? I mean, there are some weird spaces in art where you're exploring this idea. Anyway, it all gets a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know where we're going with that really.
Well, I can remember actually what like one of my first open mic nights. There was a guy performing. I think he performed after me, so I didn't know at the time. He was blind.
Right.
And one of my first opening parts at that point was talking about how I look like other people.
Mm,
And I cottoned onto it and I said nothing. I didn't like, obviously, like I said, I was on before him. A few weeks later, I was on a set with him. And at that point, obviously, I realized I was aware he was blind. So when I
mm,
did the same joke again, I actually called up to him and actually, apart from you, Steve,
mm,
and then like
mm,
just
mm,
it then
mm.
gave me the chance to then describe a little bit more so he could then keep up with well, not keep up with the
Mm.
joke but understand what I was saying
Sure.
rather than making a oh my god I can't say that again or I can't make a joke about my looks in case someone can't see me.
Mm.
It's an awareness piece to go
Yeah,
okay
yeah.
so I can do something and actually the fact that I said oh not everyone in the room most of the people in the room knew at that point that he was blind and then it got a bigger laugh because everyone knew that I was taking the room on the journey rather than
Mm, mm.
excluding someone.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
difficult. It's an awareness piece, and you don't always know. But yeah, I just really struggle with that deliberate like
yeah.
attack on people or on cultures and stuff like that. Like you can have a joke, but if you're just constant like at someone or at people, I yeah, it
No,
baffles
no, I
me.
think that I agree with you completely. I love the point that you're making there, and I think it is like the danger for some people in the public eye is that they say something which, let's say derogatory about
Mm,
a subgroup of people, a certain segment of society, that can be used as an excuse for
yeah,
hateful behavior by
yeah,
other people. I mean, although again, like proving the connection there is difficult. Yeah,
yeah. And it's
yeah.
undoing it. Like if that happens, and if it was completely unintentional, the damage and the amount of time it takes to repair that and get people, you know, understanding or even ever back on the side of that person is difficult. Like
Mm.
But
Mm.
we're not here to fix that problem. But
No,
that's just,
no, no,
a
indeed.
side step into it. But
Yeah, yeah. These are interesting open questions. Well, talking of questions, yeah, let's jump on to our second question, which is how is technology affecting your life and comedy? And of course, as I often say here, technology is almost all things. I mean, technology, pen and paper, computers, AI, it's all, anything you're not born with. I mean, arguably though, even particular sorts of thought processes are a technology. Like there are, certain things that we know about these days that 2,000 and 5,000 years ago they didn't know. That philosophy or whatever hadn't been
mm.
developed. Yeah, what's going on with you in technology, eh?
um, I have a love-hate when it comes to technology. I don't keep up to kind of date with it all. I mean, I've never been one that's heavy on technology, and even when
Hmm.
it kind of growing up gaming and stuff like that, like I'd have a games console, I would hardly use it, or I wouldn't
Hmm.
go and play games online because there's going to be a 12-year-old somewhere, even like now, that is going to be better at a game than me, and I'm like, why am I setting myself up to fail?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I guess we all have to use technology. I mean, this podcast won't record itself into the ether, will it? So
No need.
definitely, I've been on a bit of a learning curve with technology. So I record every set that I do.
Mm.
I always have done. So I like to, for a number of reasons. One, I guess to try and really see how a gig has landed. Have jokes worked? Have I accidentally said something, or has something really, really gone well, or really, really badly? And actually playing
Mm.
it back. Normally, that's my post gig journey home. I'm playing
Yep.
it back
Right.
just to kind of go, okay, that was it as good or as bad as I thought.
Hmm.
So I like to record them all. Then that became my kind of next venture in. I've been on Facebook for too many years, but now I'm sharing my clips and I'm trying to send them out into the world. So I've gone
Mm.
onto YouTube and set up a profile. I've gone onto Instagram and set up a profile. I've gone onto TikTok and share them the
Hmm.
short clips. So yeah, technology now it's not as easy as just go as easy as go and do a gig, go home, go and get ready for your next gig. Like now
Hmm.
I'm sitting there going, what can I use? What can I cut? What can I share? What
Mm.
might get a laugh? What, so that now it takes me a lot longer to go through that process. And then once I find a part of a set that I want to share, I've got to share it in four different places.
Mm.
So
Mm.
technology, yes, is a bit of a love-hate relationship, certainly,
Sure.
because if I want to kind of get some of that out there, or and whether that's, I don't think I'm doing it for the fame and fortune of it, or hoping it will go viral, and that's going to be my,
Mm.
me sitting back and relaxing forever because one little clip can get a few views. I'm not kind of that naive to think it's going to be that simple.
No.
But if I can get, same as with the comedy, if I can get a few people out there going, that's quite funny,
Mm. Mm.
then that's the uh the therapy session, I guess, kind of ticked. Like, yes, you're doing a good job for someone. You're making someone laugh. You're like, there's a
Right.
purpose.
Right.
You're not just doing it. Again, it comes back to the material of what I joke about and talk about is normally the most relatable things for me, I guess, at my age now where I am.
Mm.
Like, so people that are married go through some of the things, or traveling. There's a few things I'll talk to that I think people can relate to. If they can have fun watching it and I get a thumbs up and a like, or a
Hmm.
few people watch it, great. Is it going to make me fame and fortune? Don't know if I'd really want that anyway. Who
Mm.
knows? That's that's for lots of people to decide at some point. Um, but even it can be really helpful as a tool because, funnily enough, my last gig with you guys at Sunset,
Yeah.
my opening joke was tumbleweed. There was pure silence, and I was like, "Oh, okay then." And then I went and did all the rest of my set, and there was laughter in there, but I didn't feel like it had gone well.
Mm.
But
Mm.
watching it back, actually, and probably partly because every other line I was then talking to the fact they weren't going to enjoy it,
Hmm.
there was a lot more laughter in the whole set than I realized there was.
Right.
So actually, walking away, if I'd have not recorded that set, I'd have gone, that was such a bad gig
Mm.
because that got in my head from the first 25 seconds. But
Sure.
actually, looking back, it was a really good 7.5 minutes where the
Hmm.
audience were completely on board with me
Hmm.
apart from one section. So
Mm.
it helps me then to go, okay, that worked, that didn't. And word for word, it was the same that I'd done two nights before and it got a laugh. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, it didn't land. That's fine
Hmm.
because it
Hmm.
doesn't always have to land.
Mm.
You've got your kind of jokes generally will work, but even those can completely fall apart. So yeah, definitely having those recordings and that kind of knowledge, and also my one of my really bad habits isn't i- isn't practicing what I'm going to be doing that night. Like
Oh yeah.
my practice for a gig is normally watching the last gig on my way to the gig, just
Hmm.
tweaking the order or just thinking a little bit something different, rather than spending enough time going, I'm going to practice 10 minutes. Here we go. Word for word, this is what I'm going to do. And getting into the habit of it
Mm.
kind of being in my head. So I'll just write down my keywords and go, right, this is what I'm thinking of doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, the technology is a tool as much as it can be kind of a distraction and a trouble.
God, well, so much interesting stuff in there. The now pretty much, I think most of the people that we've spoken to on the podcast so far usually say that they do record their gigs and they don't watch them back as much as they should. And the usual topic of conversation we have is how I kind of watch. I so love watching myself. I
Mm.
mean, like it's painfully narcissistic. I don't know, but all those things that you are saying, I think it's psychologically, I find it very very helpful
Yeah,
to watch back because it will usually I'll usually end up feeling better about
yeah.
the gig after I've watched it back. You don't I mean you don't struggle with this common issue of like you have to force yourself to like a lot of people are kind of like they don't like listening to the audio of themselves. They don't like watching video of themselves. You don't have a problem with that,
I- I've learnt to get on with it.
right? Okay,
I think is the best way. So I've worked my day job. I've worked in call centers for 25, 26, 27 years.
right.
And so my first job was working where my voice was important, and I would have to play back calls. I'd have to
Oh,
listen to
really?
myself back. I'd have to go,
Interesting.
self-improvement piece. And I hated doing it. And even having
Mm,
teams of my own, I'd be like, we're going to play your call back. And you can see the dread in people's face.
mm,
I think we're all our own worst judge. We always think we sound worse than we do, or we
right,
sound different to how we sound to other people.
right,
So it was initially when I started recording the gigs, it was definitely a bit of a force. I had to push myself to do it,
right.
but for the benefits. Like if you don't do it, how are you going to help? How's your self improvement? Like
Absolutely.
if you don't realize where it's going wrong, you don't go, oh, I've just said 28 times in one sentence. How do you know to cut it out? So it's painful. It's not always fun. But when you hear something, like I can still play back a clip and go that and laugh at myself. I'm like, that was
Yeah.
good. So yeah, it's not fun to do. But if you get in the habit of doing it,
Mm.
like with anything, that's the habit I should get into with my pre-gig practice. Get into the habit. You soon move on from the oh I hate it.
Yes, yes. That sounds like that's a common thread for many people is that
Mm,
it's unpleasant but if they work at it
yeah,
it can become a useful tool.
yeah.
That just makes me and a few others who absolutely it is a delightful joy for me to listen to my own voice and to watch myself.
Yeah.
I think it's not pure narcissism. I like, I mean, more. I say it's a bit like me with like a chimpanzee in front of a mirror. It's like, how is this magical thing? But maybe it is just narcissism. But God, if you enjoy it, why not carry on?
Exactly. But
Um,
it's
Go
also
on.
useful as well to kind of, I guess, look for gigs. Like technology now, it's not like you pick up a phone book and go, let me phone some
No, no,
comedy
no.
clubs.
Yeah.
So, booking gigs, finding gigs,
Yes.
getting your profile out there, promoting the clubs that you've gone to and you've had a good night and a good experience. And if
Hmm.
you've walked away going, oh my God, I'm never going there again, like you don't shout about that to other people, but you
Sure.
can at least be like, you know what? I've got a good awareness of it. And like
Mm,
I've
mm,
kind of just been building and building on all the things I've got. So all of the pages and what I'll share and how often I'll share. Like last week I shared a clip and there was like 1,000 views. I
mm,
share a clip last week and I'm on two. I'm like, I don't
mm.
understand. So
No, no.
it's learning how this technology and the algorithms can work, or if it doesn't, again, not going, well, that was a rubbish clip. It was actually, it just hasn't, maybe it's the time of day you posted, whatever.
Sure.
So it's just about learning that. And yeah, and you see other clubs and you find pages or someone's performed at a venue and you go, oh, that's local to me. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to message the venue directly because you don't know who
Absolutely.
runs their comedy nights. So
Sure.
it's a tool that, love it or loathe it, I guess it plays a very important role in our lives and is going to continue to do so. What I don't use it for and I can't get on board with is kind of the chat GPT stuff and getting your jokes written for you by a computer because that's kind of lazy comedy. in my
Uh-huh.
eyes.
Oh
It's
yeah.
nice if you can get a little bit of a tweak and you're struggling with a word or two and a rephrase, fine. But if you're going to go, here you go, write me a set, I just don't see the value in it.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm.
That's for me the same as kind of using old jokes and not rewording or rephrasing or putting your own take on it, but just to sort of steal a joke completely and
Mhm.
use it as your own. Like
Mm.
it's fine as a one-off to do, but there is, sometimes you watch people or clips and go, but I know that joke. And maybe it's because I'm older than some of the people that are performing comedy
Mm.
and they might not have heard it before or whatever. But I'm
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
that's not your joke. And it really is a bugbear. That's where I'd love to use technology in the moment and go like a red
Mhm.
button
Mhm.
cross if that's not your joke. But that's also not a nice thing to do. But the thought process in my head is like, that's not yours. Why are you playing it off as your joke?
Yes, no, well, I mean, I think there's, just recently, I think Dennis Leary, Carlos Mencia, both famous American comics who were accused, I think, superficially correctly, for, you know, copying other people's material.
Mm,
This is way before ChatGPT, and ironically, I think in the case of Dennis Leary, didn't, he was still, super super successful. Um, yeah, it does it does seem unethical to be, to be taking without asking and then passing
yeah,
it off as your own thing when certainly for those of us who really really love comedy as we do, we want to be hearing about the perspective of the person on the stage.
yeah,
I mean, it's an interesting one because, in music, there's this very clear thing of like you have cover bands, right? And that's an accepted. No one says, "Oh, those cover bands are stealing those things." I mean, I think there
yeah.
is issue about permissions and this, that, and the other. I mean, I actually did a set a couple of years ago about cover comics. I mean, it seems like you could have some, but anyway, it's a funny thing. But I guess you would class the chat like you see the chat GPT writing of jokes as stealing because you see that if a chat GPT comes up with a joke, it's going to have been copied from somewhere, from some real human. Is
I,
that how you perceive it?
I don't know exactly because I've not tried to put anything in there to see what comes out. I
Mm,
think it, it's just there's such a reliance or so many conversations you hear of people like, oh, I just put it into there, I put it into there. It's like, why are we not using our brains ourselves anymore? Like
mm,
just
mm,
and also it's a computer. It can't get the connotations, it can't get the right tone and the context to some of this stuff. So,
mm,
as I said, I'm sure there's a few things I could probably put in there myself and it would improve some of my material no end. But
mm.
I just have this real like adverse. I just can't do it. I struggle with it.
Yeah, I mean, you may not know about me that one of the things I also do is I explore computational humor, and so
Mm.
I have. I mean, I don't at the moment tell jokes written by ChatGPT, but every new AI that comes out, I'm always trying to see what jokes they can come up with.
Yeah,
And I think what I try and do when I probe these AI systems is I try to get them to write jokes from their perspective.
yeah.
And I think it's just a whole area that absolutely fascinates me. And I think it's, you know, at the moment, still the level that they're at is that any sort of if you just ask it to write a set for you, it's going to be very vanilla.
Yeah.
It is not really, and I mean, I'm not sure how much benefit you're getting from that. And I mean, I'm definitely looking for, are there way, like as you say, like for tweaking jokes. I mean, the same way that you use a thesaurus,
Yeah.
sometimes if you need to find a word of a particular thing, I think it's no different from looking it up in a
Yeah,
dictionary
of
or
course not. Absolutely.
this, that, and the other.
I think it might be partly down to the work I do, where I work in call centers with talking to people.
Yes.
So I have that kind of long-term thought process of, well, could all of the jobs that people are doing be taken over by
Mm,
AI and by chatbots and stuff? And it can definitely aid what we do as
mm,
businesses and kind
mm,
of how work happens and some of the processes. It can take away some of those pain points. But I know as a customer as well, I don't enjoy that journey. I still would always prefer to have that personal conversation and be
mm.
able to explain and be able to kind of go into detail and feel like
Sure.
you're being listened to rather than
Hmm.
kind of, I've gone onto some company websites before or gone onto the chat bot and it'll be like, blah, 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 blah. Is this helpful? No. Blah, 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 blah. Is this helpful? No.
No,
Would you
yeah.
like to chat to an expert? I'm like, just put me onto someone in the first place and then we'll work it out that way.
Yeah,
I
I would agree with you. Like pretty much every experience that I've had with those sort of, and I think that they are very limited compared to ChatGPT. But even the ones using ChatGPT, yeah, no, it drives me absolutely insane.
yeah,
However, as a well, as a person who's been keenly researching and following AI for many years, I suspect that in a small amount of time, surprisingly small amount of time, we may have sentient AIs that are arguably better at listening and understanding people than the
yeah,
majority of humans.
yes,
I mean, I think it's coming.
yeah,
I don't think it's precisely here now, but I
yeah,
could easily. I mean, and I see it actually as a trend of, I think for people who work in that sort of the people skills and technology, we've felt relatively safe from the industrialization that's affected so many other people's jobs.
yeah,
I think it's coming for all of us.
yeah.
I think we live in very,
Yeah.
very interesting
I mean,
times.
arguably now thinking about it, I'm kind of being the creator of my own downfall because if I keep posting my material online, who needs to come and see me at a gig? I'm not helping myself in this situation either,
Mm,
really, am I? I know that's why a lot of people with their kind of shared material online, it's the crowd work piece, and that's a big thing. You see all of
yeah.
the crowd work, you don't see many people's jokes.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, because obviously if you can sit at home and watch a comedian, you're going to save yourself money on a night out. So and people kind of heading towards that way, same as football. People can just sit and stream it online and they won't go to a game. So,
mm.
I'm not necessarily helping myself. I'm aware of my hypocrisy in this conversation, but
It's difficult to know. Well, and I think I mean there's a huge issue about like we've got all of these big tech companies that have I think the morals of I mean I think over the last ever many years we've all been putting huge amounts of stuff online, and that's created a sort of a cornucopia of the of material, but now that's being harnessed, is it weaponized? Some people would say it's yeah, and like like there doesn't seem to be any particular attempt to remunerate all the people who've
yeah,
contributed the materials. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I want to share more. If I mean, for me, it's a sort of siren song of if I could get clips going viral, could that translate into me being able to book bigger gigs
yeah,
and get people in? I mean, I do a lot of virtual reality comedy. I mean, for me, I'm just sort of like I'm trying to find. I'm a bit of an older comedian. I've come to it a bit later than other people. I'm trying to find the cheat codes or the hacks that can allow me to make up for the fact that I haven't been doing this for
yeah,
30 years. Which and sometimes I feel like, gosh, I wish I'd stuck at it when I was 20. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned as well. I just want to touch back on. You said you're not doing the fame fortune thing is a separate thing. I think my fame libido is pretty damn strong. I kind of yeah. I would like as I mentioned, Jim Carrey says he wishes everybody could become famous and make their fortune to realize it's not all that. And to
yeah,
Jim I say, give me your money and put me in your next film. I
yeah.
want to give it a I want to give it a whirl. But yeah, I mean, you're not in this for the fame and the fortune. You're in it for what are you in it for now?
Well, there's a good question. At the moment, um, definitely the progression of sorts. I set myself kind of smaller targets, smaller goals
Hmm.
to try and work towards and go, right, is it going like, am I enjoying it? Because the second you get to the point of I'm not enjoying doing it, I think that's
Oh.
when I'll go, like, I don't need to be doing this. It's not an income at this point.
Mm.
I'd love for it to be, but I'm not doing it to get lots of money in the bank. I'm doing it because I enjoy, yeah, the being on stage and the
Yeah.
sharing and the kind of feeling you get, I guess before as well, but definitely afterwards when it has gone well and stuff.
Mm,
So I've
mm.
kind of set myself like originally it was right, I'm going to get to 50 gigs. Then I'm going to get to 100
Yeah.
gigs. Then I'm like, right, I'm going to get to 7 minutes. I'm going to get to 10 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's kind of right, I want to do a bigger venue or I want to do XYZ. So I'm kind of pushing myself slowly and steadily. And I kind of, again, got thankfully some good support in place behind me. So I'm not just kind of
Mm.
letting it take over my life as well. Like I've got a day job, I've got a family
Right.
and
Yep.
friends and kind of other things I do with my life. It's not all about comedy. So I've just got to keep myself in a nice balanced place to go, yeah, this week I'll do 3 gigs, next week I'll do one and not overdo it and
Yeah.
not completely overkill because that's also unhealthy to kind of put too many eggs in one basket, I guess, in that sense. But
Yeah.
just set myself some nice, sensible, realistic goals. Like this year is the first year I'll be going up to Edinburgh. Like
Mm.
everyone else, like I was kind of when I started, they did 2 or 3 gigs. Right, I'm going to Edinburgh. It's
Mm.
like learn a little bit, like learn about yourself and how you react, and learn a little bit about the room and kind of how to handle different situations before going all guns blazing. Right, that's it. I think I'm the next Jimmy Carr. It's like
Right.
one step at a time, just make some steady progress, and see how it goes from there. And like, yeah, the website stuff and the sharing the videos that started off with I'd post a clip on Facebook, and now I'm sharing in 4 different places
Mm.
as regularly as I have new material to do so. So it's just,
Mm.
yeah, small incremental little bits to try and kind of see where it goes without setting myself, I guess, up for massive failure. If I said, right, that's it, fame and fortune, and I don't get there within what time frame, like
Mm.
realistically, watch any comedian that tells you their life story. They've spent 20 years doing the open mic nights and little back clubs, and then they get somewhere. So to anyone who says, "Yep, I'm going to be the next big thing within 10 minutes," like you're not.
Mm.
Unless you're extremely lucky, you're probably not. So you need a bit of good luck, but you need a bit of hard work. So
Yeah, definitely.
I would definitely say I've been putting in the hard work.
Mm.
Not as hard as some, but definitely as much as my life and my kind of situation will allow me to do. And that's, yeah, that's enjoyable.
Yeah, brilliant. And that you're saying not overdoing it, which is a sort of that's become a theme over the last couple of podcasts,
Mm,
talking to other comedians is because it is addictive and you can get
yeah,
really excited about it and so on. And but then if you burn yourself out, then
yeah.
it's kind of
And
it can be
sometimes, you
painful.
know what, getting a gig or signing up for one and getting like the yes back can be as much of a buzz as it can be on stage. And you're like, so you sometimes push for that, and suddenly before you realize it, you've got 4 in a week or 5 in a week, and you're like, oh, hang on a
I'm
minute.
doing it a bit too much,
Yeah,
and then, yeah, and you can run yourself ragged trying to get to all of these places.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. Oh,
And I also I
gone.
can't cancel my like can't what I can't understand the can't do it. Like things can happen, like situations can happen in life, but the amount of times I go to gigs and the MC or the organizer's like, oh, we're missing 3 people, we're missing 4 people, and
Mm,
like, oh, they've all suddenly got a headache. You're
mm.
like as much as you can, and mental health is really important. 100%. If you're getting to that burnout stage, I would not say keep going and burn yourselves out, but then it's having that right. I know what my limits are. Don't book in too many. Like have a bit of a gap in between. Give yourself a chance to breathe. So
Yeah, and I think that that's maybe easier for those of us who are a bit more senior. Sometimes,
yes,
I mean, that's all about self-control, isn't it? Which,
yeah,
well, people can struggle with
yeah.
at any age. There was just to jump back slightly. It was interesting. You were saying something about you were sort of saying how you felt that in prior to a gig you didn't practice as much as you wanted. You were saying your preparation might be to watch the previous gig back and look at a few. Can you describe to me what you think the ideal preparation would be? Not necessarily what you're doing, but what do you aspire to be doing in preparing for a given gig?
I don't know, but I feel like I don't do enough.
Mm,
Um, but purely because literally that sometimes will be it. And again, that can be because of what's going on elsewhere or life, or I'm running from like work to the train, or I'm having to drive. So if I'm driving, I don't have the prep time. If I'm on a train, I can sit and write some things out and plan it and practice it a little bit. So it can vary. I think I feel like if fame and fortune is my end goal, there's definitely a bit more prep that should be
mm,
done in the background. And it can really depend completely on the night as well, because sometimes I can do absolutely no prep, go and have a really good gig and be like, wow.
mm,
And then other times I can prepare and prepare and prepare and almost be ready for absolutely word for word at the drop of a hat, and then something can throw me off. Like
yeah,
I'd be told I'm on next instead of two acts time,
yeah,
like I was
oh yeah,
told, so I'm not mentally prepared. And this can also be the technology coming back to bite me, because I've got the camera to set up. I've now added a little microphone that I wear
mm.
because it helps the recording quality to share.
Um,
So I've got to do all these little bits beforehand,
hmm
and then that can throw me off when I'm actually ready to go. So it's just, yeah, because I don't want to set the video up and record an hour long for my 5 minutes at the end. Like I'd like to be ready to go press record. It's just less editing
yeah,
work and less
oh, absolutely,
stress later on. But sometimes it can really backfire, and then you're completely underprepared.
yeah, yeah. No, certainly in the past I would find it very tricky if particularly if I was thinking I was going on and then like they changed the running order without telling me, and then
Yeah,
like, no, it's not you, and oh
yeah.
God, that was really difficult.
But
Um,
yeah,
but
it's not helpful. And I've made the mistake as well of calling that out, and then actually that makes me look unprepared. It also makes the room and the organizer look like they're not prepared properly. So, oh, it's their fault. No, it's not.
mm,
Like, be ready to go. You're on that
yeah,
night. The order doesn't matter. Just be ready to go. So I've learned again along the way. You learn, right? You learn
yeah,
by doing. You learn by the good and the bad. Um, so yeah, it's something that like I won't try and recreate a whole new set every time I'm doing a gig.
mm,
I've got probably three or four key jokes I've used from that very first charity event I still
oh yeah,
use today.
oh yeah,
And I'll tweak and change the order and I'll tweak and change words. And I've learned, kind of had feedback and done a few bits differently. But by having a core of the set, if it goes a little bit wrong or if something's a bit doesn't go well or I don't get reaction, I've got some other bits now I can drop in and go,
mm,
like gig number five, where I'm panicking and freezing and going, I'm going to sit down. I would like to think, touch
mm,
wood, that wouldn't happen now. I will go, okay, that hasn't worked. I'll make a point of it, or I'll move on and I'll throw a joke out there that
yeah,
I know might get a reaction, and then build on that way. So it's having the experience. Like I think tomorrow, gig number 160
hmm
in a couple of years. So I've been putting in that's a lot of time, a lot of effort. I haven't been doing like 5 gigs a week every week, but I've got enough experience, I think, behind me to be able to work in the situation I can be comfortable in, and it doesn't have to be word for word. If I forget a joke,
right,
like I'll still go, oh God, I wanted to do that one, or that went really badly.
mm,
So you go, okay, so for next time, I know. So then I'll do maybe the following gig, I'll do a bit more of that pre-work and go, this is where I want that joke to sit. This is it. Tonight I'll do it. And
hmm
then it can go horribly wrong again, or it can land. I'll go, okay, great. And now I've got the joke out there.
hmm
One of my really other bad habits, apart from not practicing, is having an idea and not writing it out as a joke fully.
okay,
I kind of throw the premise or my thought of the punchline out, have it go completely wrong, and then watching the gig back go right. Then I work backwards in my joke writing sometimes,
hmm
and that's not a good way to do it because for that first gig when you try it, the room is sitting there going, what is that? What are you talking about?
mm,
It
mm,
doesn't work, but that's the way my brain seems to piece things together sometimes, depending on
hmm
what it is. If I just want to
mm,
throw it out there, I need to just say it out loud and go, right, now let me try and do it.
right. Yeah, yeah, fascinating. Several things I want to get into there. One that so you got the microphone lapel. Sorry, I'm just on the
Hmm.
technology. Is that like a Bluetooth one that then connects to
Yeah.
your?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're kind of using that as a remote mic. Interesting,
Yeah.
interesting.
So use that as a remote mic, but then it's also trying to work out where to put that because I don't want it
Yeah, yeah.
sticking out of my pocket. Inside the pocket, if I move an arm, you can hear a sound. So I'm just kind of working out actually what's the best place. The sound is so much better because loads of feedback from people. I'm trying to encourage people to watch me and they're like, oh, the sound's not very good. So I'm like, right, okay, I can combat that, but I won't go out and spend all of the money and get the most expensive stuff. I'll go on TikTok and go, right, lapel mic and see what I can get to work. And if I
Right.
like it, I can get on board with it. Then I can maybe go, okay, I'll get something that's better quality or that's going to be suitable, or this is what I could look at instead of this. Maybe I get this option. So just, dipping your toe into trying something and then going, that works for me or it doesn't. And sometimes it will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and I guess often like, if you're rolling up at a gig, you're setting up your camera maybe some way from the stage.
Mm,
So yeah, no, that makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, and so the interesting you're saying there about the writing out. Now, as you probably know about me, I mean, I go through different phases. I'm definitely in a very, very loose phase at the moment where I am, not writing, I'm not spending time kind of like say with jokes under the microscope,
Mm,
if you know what I mean.
yeah.
Like which I guess is that there's an argument that says, stand-up comedy is the process of, yeah, absolutely. You've got to try things on stage. You've got to say them. You've got to get the reaction. Having listened back to it, your memory from the gig, you then come back and you say, right, here's this thing. I'm going to like move this here, take this here. I'm going to do
Yeah.
it this particular different way
Yeah.
the next time. Well, if I'm honest, I sort of I struggle with that. It feels like a lot of pressure. And there's an extent to which I mean you referred to before about I did this joke and it worked in these rooms and then it didn't work this time. I mean I think one of the biggest things that I think affects my performance is if I am too concerned about it, about
Yeah,
like if I'm saying, right, I need to say these words in this order, I need to land this, I need to have exactly this kind of level of pause or what have you. I feel like that prevents me from being in the moment and connecting with the
yeah,
audience. Not that not that removing that means that I then magically connect to the audience on every individual case. But yeah, it's something that I'm wrestling with myself because I'm doing a lot of just exploring things on
yeah,
stage, and for me, my end goal, apart from the huge fame and fortune, which I'm really enormously fame and fortune is what I want, is I want to also be free.
yeah,
I want to be able to be, have developed somehow the skills or improve on the existing skills or whatever it is to mean that I can sort of be there in the moment in a kind of a flow state where I'm just sort of like, I'm not thinking, oh, God, right, like I'm not thinking consciously, oh, the audience has laughed at this thing, I must now use this backup joke
yeah,
because that goes with this. That just feels like a very unpleasant, robotic place to
yeah,
be in. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. I've got myself into, I think, a natural place now of organizing kind of my themes a little bit more. Like I used to jump from, right, I'm going to joke about the lovely town of Slough, then I'm going to joke about a holiday, then I'm going to joke about my cats. Oh, and then I'm going to joke about Slough. So I'm kind of piecing things together differently in my head now, where I go, well, actually, I've now got, if I want to do a joke about Slough, I've got four or five different things I can pull on. So I can do them all at once, or I
Mm-hmm.
can do one or two, and then I can jump to a different subject. So that helps, I guess, my
Mm.
thought process in being free to play around with the material because I've got a lot more. I think I've got so much more material now, having tried and tweaked a few bits instead of a whole fresh five every time or a
Mm.
whole fresh 10. I think just before Christmas, I did my first kind of 10-minute gig, and I was like, right, this is going to be horrendous because I've got no idea. I've not done it. I've not practiced it enough
Mm.
to know I've got
Mm.
10 minutes, but I've got loads of jokes that equal more than 10 minutes. So my first 10 minutes was an absolute, well, it wasn't an absolute car crash. That's a lie. Again, I've watched it back. It landed quite well at points.
Mm.
But now if I look back to my kind of 10 minutes I did last week, you can tell the difference in how comfortable I am with
Right.
the material and the jokes and kind of what can happen on the day to throw you off a little bit, or, how you deal with the loud person sat in the front row screaming at every word that everyone's been saying and stuff like
Mm.
that. So definitely, yeah, you get more comfortable just, and that's where the stage time is important because you can't learn the crowd reactions by sitting at home on the sofa going, I'm going to read it word for word. You've got to be stage time practice. So doing a few, then having a break, and then going back to do a few rather than, well, if I do one a week, I'm going to get loads of gigs in. It doesn't work like that's not how it
Yeah.
works, is it? So it's just, yeah,
And
it's
and that
learning.
yeah, and that I think that is in some ways the particular challenge that we have as aspiring stand-up comedians
Mm,
is about getting that stage time. I mean, it must be challenging for all performing artists, but you sort of feel like, for somebody doing their guitar and they're practicing the guitar, practicing the guitar, practicing the guitar, practicing the guitar, and then it's got to involve live gigs as well.
yeah,
But I guess I feel like people are more willing to have to be in an environment in which there is a guitar playing in the background than they are, like, I think there's quite a lot of people who don't want to be in a comedy audience for fear
yeah,
of being spoken to, and so on, whatever. And that, is, I mean, I don't know. For me, I kind of wrestle with the, like, how much time do I spend doing admin to try and, through whatever mechanism, running my own comedy club,
yeah,
running pro nights, like doing stuff to get effectively an audience that then I can be, part of the show? Or would I be better off spending, doing none of that and spending all of my time just pouring over material, practicing it, practicing it, and
yeah.
somehow accessing those temples of comedy that, can hand out little passes, and these are places that have got good at filling rooms
Yeah.
with willing comedy punters. I don't know
Yeah.
what the
It's
trick is.
difficult because I guess the reputation, like people always used to go, oh, I can't sit in the front row because people are going to pick on me. And in open mic comedy, it very rarely happens again, unless you've got someone who's deliberately there to upset and stuff. Like you'll have a conversation, but they're not
Mm.
there to wind you up and cause problems. But that now, because the trend as well for the online clips is the crowd
Yeah.
work, people
Mm.
go, oh, well, if I almost every time I go to an open mic now, no one sits in the front row, front two rows until they're
Yeah.
really pushed or the comedians sit at the front because it's such a difference when they're spread out from the front row to the back of the room versus having two full rows and then nothing else. Such a difference. And then that also you build off that. You kind
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
respond to it. The crowd respond. So it's so interesting to see. But again, we're
Well, yeah.
creating
It-
some of that ourselves by sharing. here's crowd working, here's me making a joke about someone in the room. It's like, well, that's not, and I'm guilty of it myself. Like my last couple of clips from last week, I shared about 5 clips, and they're all me talking to someone in the front row because they were just constantly talking. But
Mm.
it can be
That
fun.
yeah, yeah, no, yes. Well, it's I don't know if you're familiar with this thing called the prisoner's dilemma, which is from game theory, which is this idea that you have two prisoners and actually, I guess they're supposed to be people they've been arrested, but they haven't actually got sufficient proof to
Mm,
prove that they've done a crime. But so they've, in this classic way, the police have separated them, and they basically they're in the situation where they're saying, look, the other guy has, like he said he said you've done it. You better incriminate him. And they're saying that basically they're putting pressure on both of them. Now they're in this sort of artificial situation where if both of them keep stum, right, they won't have any evidence and
yeah,
they've gone. But if one of them betrays the other, right, he gets off. The other guy experiences a big negative thing,
yeah,
and but this guy has like a sort of he doesn't get the big reward in somehow.
yeah,
I forget the precise details of it, but so it's sort of like a classic situation in which and they're not allowed to communicate. It's
yeah,
this classic situation where if they collaborate, they can have a big reward. But the easier, tempting option is to just betray the other person. And
yeah,
I sort of see like this, like getting comedy audiences together. Like for example, for Sunset Comedy, we're in Harrow. We're gradually building a little bit more of a following. But I think there's so many people who are in their rooms watching Netflix that they could be
yeah,
in our club having an amazing experience, but it kind of it relies upon like every time we can get two or three or four people in there, right? If it's only two or three or four in addition to the comedians and other people around, it doesn't quite max out. But do you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like, so it's this weird thing where everybody's got this easier option of just sitting at home
yeah,
watching Netflix.
absolutely.
So yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it?
Yes.
Um, the we're not going to solve that today. Let's move on to the next question, which is like the people that have the biggest impact on your life and your comedy. Obviously, your
Yes.
friend who
Shall we
unfortunately lost
pause
his
for a
life.
quick break before? Is
Absolutely,
that all
we can
right?
totally do that. Yep, let's do that. Maybe we
Wonderful.
should
Let's do
press the.
that.
Let's do that.
You're on mute, Sam, still.
There we go. Well, now
There
we're
we go.
properly back. All right,
It's
brilliant.
a proper Zoom call when someone stays on mute for a longer time.
Absolutely classic, classic. Entirely intentional. I did it
Yes.
all for comedy. But yeah, so the people that had the biggest impact on your life and comedy.
Um, are we talking the family, the friends, the people around us, or are we talking like the comedy influences of the world?
Entirely up to you. I mean, you could, you've already talked about the comedy influences. I guess I always feel like I've got the structure of the questions for the podcast wrong. In that, I mean, you've done a very good job of talking about the different people involved. I guess really, is there anybody we've missed out that's had a big influence on you and your comedy?
Um, no, I don't think so. I mean, there's like I said, loads of comedians that I have sat and watched over the years, and some that I've gone to see live, and some that I wish I had. And I guess I can, having started comedy myself, I see things from a very different angle now in terms
Mm,
of before I'd sit and watch and go, that's funny.
mm,
And now I just kind of sit there and go, that's clever. I understand how you got there. Or as they're
mm,
talking through, trying to go, I can see where this punchline's going, or I can see where this is going.
mm,
So I see things slightly differently, I guess. What I try to do if I can is not often. I'm not one for picking up a book, but I've read probably two or three books about comedy and about stand
mm.
up and writing jokes and stuff like that that I would never have picked up books before and
Oh yeah,
read and got interested in. Um, in particular, Adam Bloom's book
right.
is and was very helpful and one I kind of
Hmm.
probably took too long to read. I probably read it over such a long space of time. It's not as impactful as if I'd have uh, I read it in one hit and then started kind of picking up my pen and writing again. But
Yeah.
some really good stuff. And then I guess almost one way or another, everyone I speak to, because I would always try and pick up tips, advice, watch what they're doing, and kind of learn whether or
Mm.
not I'd want to kind of go and do a gig at that person's room again, or whether or not I would steer well clear because of how they were or how they organized their night and stuff like that. I'll try and do if I can. I've probably done 3 different courses, I guess, or workshops. So
Oh
every
yeah.
kind of 6 months or so, I'll try and find a workshop or something that I can attend or join or
Oh yeah.
something, just because you're not going to learn just by thinking you know best.
Hmm.
It simply doesn't work that way. If it
Hmm.
was that simple, we'd all be in Jimmy Carr's shoes, wouldn't we? With our own shows and our own like sellouts
Hmm.
all around. Blah. I don't know why I keep referring to Jimmy Carr so much.
He
He's come
he's
up a lot today. I don't know why.
he comes up on the podcast before.
Mm,
I think he's an interesting fellow. I mean, arguably one of the highest profile UK comedians,
mm.
I would say.
He is, but I wouldn't turn around and go, he's the funniest person
Hmm.
or my kind of role model comedian of what I want to be. Like
Hmm.
his
Sure.
act is very different to kind of my material and how I write. But I guess, yeah, it's just because he's so high profile, the name comes up. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, I will try and learn from others as much as I can, anything else. Like, because things change, audiences change, approaches change. So yeah, learning from other people along the way is I think, and also not trying to then be the person in the room going, you should do it this way. You should do it this way. Like
Hmm.
I will, I seem to have this little kind of magnetism of new people in a room will come for some reason kind of hover towards me. Maybe it's my jackets, Sam. I'm not sure.
We love your jackets.
Um,
Brilliant
it
jackets.
could be them. I mean, there's another piece back to technology for a second. I've got to go shopping for jackets all the time.
Yeah.
This takes
Yeah.
time and effort. And I could not do that without technology because
Hmm.
most of them do now come from Vinted.
Right.
Yeah, there's an advert in there and they want to, send me some jackets. That's fine.
Okay, cool.
Um,
Sponsorship deal. Yeah, go on.
Sponsorship deal with Vinted just for some jackets. It'd be lovely. It would save
Yeah.
me a fortune,
Hmm.
but it would get me in trouble at home. Um, that's lost my train of thought there completely now. What were we
But
talking
I think you
about
were
before
talking
I
about
said
people
that?
being
We were, yes, yes.
coming in.
Kind of people just kind of gravitating towards and kind of asking for advice and tips
Yeah.
and kind of suggestions. Or if I see someone on one of the Facebook groups go, I've got spare time, where can I gig? I'll put forward
Yeah.
normally the same 4 or 5 names because I know the nights are well run. I know the people organize them are kind people, they're helpful people. They're not going to sit there and go, oh, here we go. So I will kind of help people in the same way I would like to be helped. And I think
Sure.
that's there are some people that are in it purely for themselves, and fair play. I'm not going to judge people for that. But if you can help someone along the way, like what's the harm in helping someone? Like help with their help make their joke a little bit better, make their kind of next night a little bit smoother, or make a
Mm.
suggestion that's going to
Mm.
help. Like we're all in this journey together. We're all trying to basically work to the same purpose, which is entertain a room full of people. Like,
Yeah, yeah, and as a shared journey, I mean, it's one of the things that I love about it. Doing it now, it's sort of similar time period to yourself. Is there is a sort of a camaraderie. Not that there aren't people falling out with each other occasionally, but there's a kind of, you see people around on the circuit, and you gradually
mm,
get to know them a bit better, and then it becomes like this community.
yeah,
Which is lovely. Yeah, and then see them at courses and
yeah,
workshops
and it
and
builds
so
up.
on.
And then if they kind of they need last minute person, they know if they call you, if you say I'm here, the reliability and stuff. Like if you're dropping out of a gig every other night, you're not going to get booked again. Like if you
Exactly.
say you're going to be there, unless there's something you can't make it, you should be there
Yeah, yeah,
and build
absolutely.
up that that trust in you. Like
Yeah,
you're your own brand, right? You've got to be
absolutely.
like trustworthy and know that the person booking you should know that they're going to get a good reaction and stuff like that. And I've like one of the other things I've been doing with technology, back to that for a second again, like I've now built a bio page
Mm,
on a website. I don't know how to design a website. It's not the smoothest looking website, but I use it obviously more for booking than I do to go
mm,
come and look at my comedy. But I couldn't because I can't work with technology. I couldn't remove one of the pages. So there were like 3 pages to this website.
mm,
So
mm,
instead of going, okay, I'll leave it blank, I've then created a page and I've listed all of the places I've gigged at. And not
mm.
as a brag, or like, it might look like a brag, but it's
Right,
actually
right.
like these are the places I've gone to. So if someone's trying to book a gig or whatever and they see it, or someone
Yeah,
asks
yeah, yeah.
where should I go, I don't have to go, oh, there was this one gig this one time. I can kind of just go, look,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a list of them there. I'm not going to put them in a rating order of who's good and who's bad,
No.
because for me it might have been great, for you it might be terrible. That's your
Sure.
own journey.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's where I've gone. So I can speak to it to a certain degree. And also that kind of people are pushing and promoting us by going, here's who's on and here's a link
Yeah.
to their page and stuff. So pay it back a little bit
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's that mutual respect. Like you say, we're all in the same business,
yeah,
help each other to make it as successful as we can.
yeah. And I like what you're saying about the own brand. Yeah, and you know, you learn over time who is more reliable, who's not, who's creating a kerfuffle, who
Yeah.
isn't. Yeah, yeah. And I've got a not dissimilar page, which I've now after yeah, it's now starting to fall. I haven't managed to update it the last couple of months, but I'm actually looking at it here. Is I've got all the there was a point at which I was very meticulously all of the things with Google Map links to all the places
Yeah.
that I gig there. But uh, but yeah, it's going back to Adam Bloom's book. I think that's it's the precisely that thing I was talking about of the kind of he advocates for rights, this sort of microscopic work on the
Mm.
moving things around, which I'm kind of, I mean, for me, I can't help just mentioning that, so I spent all day yesterday in Brighton at the Brighton Fringe doing that for the
Mm.
first time, and I had three shows. It's the first time I've ever done that amount of performing of comedy in one day, and yeah, again, watching the things back, I feel, yeah, learning different things, brilliant, but there's also, yeah, I don't know, if my maybe I do need to be spending more time like manipulating jokes. I don't know. Who knows what the answer is? Let's slip on to we've been having a great chat, but we we must let people move on. Yeah, final couple of questions. Drugs, which of course substances. Illegal, not illegal. Could be ADHD medication, antidepressants. Could be vodka. Could be whatever it happens to be. Has substances played a role in your life? Do they affect your perception of reality? Are you
Um,
completely clean?
I am from a tobacco and drug perspective completely clean.
Right.
Despite jokes about Amsterdam, I have been there. I have not sampled the local produce, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've never had an inkling or a desire or a need to. I think and it might be because I do at times have a bit of an addictive personality. I think,
Right.
like if I'm into something like the comedy, like I've the
Yeah.
last 2 years, it's good to have a sensible hobby rather than I could be spending every week taking some drugs. It's just not for me. It's never appealed enough for me to want to try.
Mm,
Um, Interestingly, one of my you would think best gigs if you were to watch all of my recordings back.
mm,
I was in London and there were definitely a couple of people, should we say, under the influence,
mm-hmm.
which was interesting because they laughed at every single comment. So
Right.
it was kind of a really love-hate kind of situation because
Mm,
you're getting the laughter you want, but you're not getting the laughter because of your jokes. It didn't,
mm,
or it did be the laughter in between, or kind of laughing at people in their build up to a joke, and they're like, "Why are you laughing? That bit's not even funny." So it can be disruptive, but it was
mm,
quite funny just that one day to go, okay, I can notice a difference when I guess you've got people who are not intoxicated in any way. But it's the
yeah.
same. I guess you could be in a room and they've all had a few beers, and you can notice the
Mm-hmm.
difference when the
Yeah.
beer kicks in. Like in the second half of a show, normally there's a bit more
Yeah.
laughter. There can be a few less people sometimes, but there's normally a bit more laughter because they've had a
Mm,
couple more drinks. They're a bit more relaxed.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy a drink. That can also be a downside to doing too much comedy because
Mm-hmm.
it's extra money to spend every time you go out and you want to buy a drink. Like I don't need a drink to perform. I don't have to have a drink. I've definitely, I think, and this is definitely an age thing and probably being married and settled down a little bit. I don't go every weekend. I need to be out and getting as drunk as I can. Whereas in my
Mm,
20s, that was the peak. That was the highlight. Let's go out and let's get drunk and then
mm,
wake up in the morning and go, well, that was fun. Let's do it again. But if I have like more than a couple of drinks now, I wake up the next day and go, we're not doing that again. Like
yeah,
things
absolutely.
do change, and what you're going out for and the social things. Like I kind of wish that 20 something year old me knew about open mic comedy just as a night out because you don't have to go and get drunk, but you get entertained. If you don't like someone, they're on for 5 minutes and you can move on and you see someone
Mm,
else. Whereas a comedy club with professionals, it can be 20 minutes, or
mm,
back then I would see it as 20 minutes of, oh my God, I really don't like this person.
right.
But now I'd have such a different appreciation of how much work and effort they've gone into. I would see it differently. But it's such a nice little night out. And it's
Yeah.
like, and not just say that because you might be running a night in Harrow Sound that could do with some people popping in every now and then, of
I
course.
mean, the
But
people who come have a fantastic time and they say
yeah,
positive things.
exactly.
Yeah, it's
So
yeah,
yeah,
It is. It's a nice. It is a nice night out, and I think it's one that we'd like more people to consider, wouldn't we?
Mm, exactly. It's not fun performing to an empty room sometimes, but it can also still be a learning opportunity, right? There's still things you can do and see. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think,
I mean, I think it's it's funny because it goes, we have some weeks when it's completely full, and
yeah,
other weeks where and sometimes it's effectively a comedy workshop with
yeah,
the comedians who've
yeah,
turned up. But actually, if we can get everybody to sit at the very front, we can have a great comedy
yeah,
workshop, and we can, and then and it's a social.
yeah,
It is a lovely
yeah.
group activity.
But there's like again, I'm being. It sounds like I'm being a bit judgmental, and I'm not. I just for me it doesn't work. But there are some people who go, "Oh yeah, I've just like beer six, beer seven, beer eight," and then try and go on stage. I'm like, how are you even going to enjoy this? Because you won't remember it in the morning for a
No,
start. But I mean, give yourself the best possibility of having the best time when you're on stage doing what it is you enjoy. If you
sure.
enjoy drinking, just go to the pub and have some drinks. But
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah, it's the wisdom
Wisdom of age.
comes,
It is
yes,
a funny. It's a funny thing with. Yeah, I mean, I had a very similar. I mean, I think I'm similar to you, and I've got addictive personality. Yeah, in my 20s, through my 30s, and even into my 40. The weekend would be. Yeah, that would be right.
mm,
I think I never had problem drinking in like I wasn't really tempted to until COVID to drink on a, like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Uh, but I would drink a lot
mm,
at the weekends, and yeah, I mean, ultimately getting older, it felt like it was more and more and more exhausting, and I guess less and less and less appealing.
yeah,
It does feel ironic, you get to this stage and you think, gosh, all of that time that was invested in that. But there was something about going and getting drunk with friends that
mm,
is just the bee's knees.
yeah,
I mean, I think the modern generation is in a slightly different way because alcohol becomes so much more expensive. But I was out, so after all the gigs yesterday in Brighton, I was busy wandering around looking for I was coming down to find other comedians to talk to, and I went and they had what was it? They had some sort of thing at this school. It was called the Spiegel Gardens in Brighton. They had like a kind of it wasn't pay to get in, but it was like a it was sort of out. They had like several pop up. They were sort of carding people on the way in to check that they were the right age, and it was all these, and it was it's bank holiday today. It was Sunday night, but they had hundreds of, and then people must 20s, 30s, maybe some people in their 40s, all just out, and there wasn't really any. Show that I think there was a DJ in one tent or what have you, but everybody's drinking and chatting and drinking and chatting and drinking and chatting, and it's yeah, I mean that's what we have to compete with, really. Is
yes,
is convince people that they would actually have any more fun than they would chatting to their friends, which
yeah. And I
completely.
think I've definitely noticed the difference in the audiences that actually at comedy now, they're a little bit more talkative than we would like at times. Like
Mm.
they will try to interact while you're in the middle of your set and like have a conversation or answer back or throw something out there that they're trying to be funny because they've got their friends and it's fine once or twice. You'll get that. The heckles are fine.
Mm.
But when someone will spend like an entire gig talking to every comedian, you're just like, this is so difficult for people then in the room to actually enjoy themselves because they're like not seeing comedians, they're seeing two people have a conversation. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
the approach and the etiquette, I guess, of a
yeah.
comedy room, it's
Well,
different.
yeah, it's the audiences need to learn something, and there's some people, and I know some people. I think when they get drunk, lose control of
Mm,
themselves, and I mean that we're sort of complicit in a lot of these nights are set up, and they're set up by the place that's selling alcohol, and they're doing it in order to sell more alcohol. So, but let's. It's been a great discussion. Let's move into our final question. What does it all mean? This life, the universe, and everything. Can you answer the big question, Philip?
no, I don't think I can.
No, no.
It's difficult to know what it's all about, really, because what you think is a normal, straightforward situation can, like, just come up and knock you sideways, and you're not expecting stuff. So I think the only answer is to be nice. Like this sounds cliche a little bit, but it is be nice to everyone. Like treat people the way you want to be treated, and just
Mm.
get on with people, and just enjoy our very short time while we're here, because you just don't know what's coming.
Yeah, you don't.
Like so, yeah. If you enjoy yourself, fine. But if you're not at the cost of like cost or harm of other people, and that's just I don't understand you know the way people are and why they think things are as interesting or as fun as they are. When surely like looking back, I would never do certain things that I see people doing, all the news in the press about what's going on with kids and 14-year-olds being arrested and stuff. And you're like, go and have some fun. Go and kick a football around and have some fun. Like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't follow the news. What have 14-year-olds been doing recently? They've been.
Well, running around stabbing each other from the sound of it.
Oh,
Generally,
okay.
I again, like you, will avoid the news because it's all generally not good news stories.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, there's not often good stories in the news, which is one reason definitely not to watch it. But I think just like why are people not just generally nice to each other? I don't get it. I don't see the benefit in you being
No.
disrespectful, hurtful, harmful. Like, what do you gain from that?
No, no, no. I mean, I agree. Although, and I think possibly the situation is that a lot of people are in a lot of pain,
Mm,
and
yeah,
they and similarly what we're talking about, some people when they've had a lot to drink can't control themselves. I think most people are not in control of themselves. They're
mm,
not. I think a lot of people are not behaving rationally, and I mean that's probably true for me for a good majority of my life. Probably still true now. What was I doing yesterday? I have no idea. Yeah, crazy stuff.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
but I
just
love what you're saying there. Time is short.
yes,
Like, and I think that's the thing though, is when you're young, it doesn't feel so short, does it?
no,
And I think people like yourself and myself, with the perspective, and we've lost friends and family, and that when you're a child, you can, if you're fortunate, you end up assuming, yeah, like life, lots of time,
yeah,
endless. It feels like there is no limit, and actually, there's lots of limits, and those limits may come in harder and faster than you expect, which really changes you,
yes,
doesn't it?
exactly, definitely.
There we go. Well, fantastic chat. Philip, where can people, if they want to see more of you, obviously we can get your socials and links and so on in, but your upcoming shows, any other events that you want to promote?
I have my first festival gig actually at the end of May in the May Bank holiday,
Wonderful.
which is the Leastock Festival.
Great.
I believe that's in Suffolk. I'm probably going to get that wrong now because I got that
Mm,
wrong last time when I
wonderful.
looked at it. But I generally I do share kind of my month ahead gigs. So if anyone is interested in seeing the face that goes with this voice, I do post them regularly. I do share clips. As I said, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok are full. So it depends on your age range, really. I mean, if
Yeah.
if people a young crowd are in listening, definitely head to TikTok. The kind of next generation up are probably going to be on Instagram a little bit, so I'm definitely followed on there. And the original kind of online team are definitely going to be on YouTube, looking through the shorts and stuff that way. But I think nothing beats doing it in person. So yeah, find the list of gigs and come along. There are plenty. And I said I'll be in Edinburgh as well for the first time this year, but only for 3 days. I've got to squeeze that into a busy work life too. So
Mm-mm-mm.
15th, 16th, 17th, I'm up in Edinburgh.
Wonderful. Excellent. Excellent. Well,
So
we'll get
yeah,
all of these things in the show notes. People will be able to get out and see you or see you online. Brilliant. So yes, well, we're going to wrap up, and then of course, last word to the guest, Phillip Reiss. But yeah, so well, thanks everyone for listening. Remember, you can help support comedians on technology, people, and drugs by going to patreon.com/comedians on, where any level of support will help us continue to produce this show. Big thanks to Phillip for sharing his time with us today. Please do follow us on Facebook, and we'll see you again soon, or just hear you again, or something. I don't know. Anyway, last word to the guest, Phillip Reiss.
last words. If you're suffering from insomnia, watch my YouTube videos. I've been told they help get people to sleep.